I still remember the exact tone of Tanya's voice when she called me that afternoon. Too bright, too polished, like she had practiced it in front of a mirror. "Mom," she said, stretching the word as if it truly meant something to her. "We thought it would be wonderful if you came stay with us for a week. The kids miss you. Mark misses you. I miss you." For a moment, I actually believed her daughter. It had been 7 months since Jake passed. 7 long months of learning how to make coffee for one, how to eat dinner in silence, how to sleep in a bed that didn't feel like home without the warmth of his breathing beside me. So when Tanya offered her warmth, I mistook it for kindness instead of strategy. I arrived the next day with a small suitcase and a hopeful heart. Mark opened the door with a half smile, the kind he used when he didn't know what to feel. Behind him stood Tanya, arms crossed, posture stiff, pretending her smile wasn't plastered on. "Come in, Mom," she said sweetly. "We've been waiting." But the moment I stepped inside, something inside me tugged. A quiet alarm, a whisper from Jake, or maybe just intuition. The house didn't feel like theirs anymore. It felt like it no longer had space for me. My favorite framed picture, the one of Jake holding baby Mark, was removed from its usual spot and replaced with a giant portrait of Tanya's parents I had never seen before. My whereupon throw blanket, the one I made last Christmas, was folded and stuffed behind the couch instead of displayed like before. The entire living room smelled different, to a strong cinnamon candle that wasn't mine, masking something deeper. As I placed my bag down, a sudden burst of loud chatter came from behind me. I turned to see Tanya's parents, sister, uncle, and 2 cousins walking in through the side door, arms full of luggage, grocery bags, and boxes. "Oh good. You're already here," Tanya's mother said without even greeting me. "Move that bag, sweetheart. We need space." Before I could react, Tanya scooped up my suitcase and set it near the laundry room. "Mom, I'll get you settled in a minute," she said casually. "Settled where?" There were only 3 bedrooms and they were all already occupied. I forced a smile and walked into the kitchen. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe I was being sensitive. That's what they always said, right? But the whispers began quickly. "Is she staying the whole week? I thought Tanya said she'd only drop by. Why does she even need to be here? She should have stayed at her own place." My own place. My own home. The one Jake and I worked 35 years to build. The one I left behind to spend family time with. People who didn't even look me in the eye. "Mom, could you make yourself useful and help set the table?" Tanya called out, not bothering to lower her voice. "We're all exhausted from arranging everything." Useful. As if I had come here to serve. Still, I set the plates quietly. I didn't trust my voice. The unease in my stomach spread like cold water. I glanced at Mark, hoping he'd sense something was wrong. But he barely looked up from his phone. That night, after everyone finished eating, they all drifted into the guest rooms that were once mine to sleep in when I visited, and I stood in the hallway, holding my purse, waiting for Tanya to show me where I'd sleep. "Oh," she said finally, pretending to remember, "we didn't get a chance to set up your room. Things got a little crowded. But don't worry, Mom, the sofa is really comfortable." Comfortable. A sofa I didn't choose. In a living room that didn't look like mine anymore. I lay there that night, my knees tucked to my chest, listening to the laughter echoing from behind closed doors. Laughter that didn't include me. Laughter that wasn't mine to join. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. And as I closed my eyes, I knew this invitation wasn't a gesture of love. It was a doorway into something much darker. Cliffhanger. The next morning, I would learn that her family wasn't just visiting. They were moving in, and I was the one being moved out. The next morning, I woke to the sound of drawers slamming and loud voices flooding the hallway. For a moment, I forgot where I was. Then the cold ache in my back reminded me the sofa, the place Tanya said was comfortable. I sat up slowly, listening. "Put this stuff in the bigger room," Tanya's mother barked. No, I want the window room," her sister argued. "Let Mom take the small room," the uncle said. "Well, obviously," Tanya replied. Obviously. I stood, brushing my hair back as I stepped toward the noise. What I saw made my heart sink. Boxes, luggage, clothes, suitcases stacked against the walls. Tanya's entire family had taken over the guest rooms, completely moving furniture, hanging clothes in the closets, and placing toiletries on the bathroom counters like they were settling in for a month. Not a few days, Tanya noticed me and smiled, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, Mom, you're awake. Great. We didn't want to disturb you." Didn't want to disturb me. They had been moving furniture like a construction crew. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Tanya, what's going on?" She shrugged. "My parents will be staying a little longer than planned. They need a place until things settle down. And since you're here, it's perfect timing. You can help around until everyone's comfortable." Help around. So that's what I was now. Before I could speak, her sister shoved past me, carrying a huge makeup organizer. Move please, she said sharply, not even glancing at me. It hit me like cold water. I wasn't a guest. I wasn't respected. I wasn't wanted. I was an inconvenience, someone they had to step around. Breakfast made it worse. The dining table was full, every chair taken. Tanya sat next to Mark, her parents across from them, her cousins at the ends. I stood there holding a plate. Tanya finally glanced up. Oh mom, you can sit. Maybe on the porch. It's quieter out there. Double quotes, quieter. More isolated. More invisible. I walked to the porch with my plate and sat alone. The wind was cold, but the cold inside me was worse. Through the window, I watched them laughing, passing food, making inside jokes, toasting with orange juice. In my house, at my table, every time Tanya caught my eye through the glass, she smirked, not a smile, a smirk, something deliberate. Calculated. After breakfast, they sprawled across the living room couch, my couch, and turned on the TV. Tanya's father placed his feet on the coffee table Jake built. Her mother rearranged my decorative pillows without asking. The cousins argued loudly over which show to watch. And then the moment that changed everything, that afternoon, I walked inside and found my small suitcase, my only belongings, placed neatly on the floor near the front door. Not in the hallway. Not in a room. At the door, like something to be taken out. Tanya noticed my stare. Oh mom, don't look like that. We just needed space. There's no room left inside for storage. The sofa is still there if you want to nap. No room left inside. The house I had built. The house I had filled with memories. The house I had opened to them. My voice cracked. This is my home, Tanya. She crossed her arms. It was. But right now, you're making things uncomfortable for everyone. Please don't create drama. Drama. I swallowed the pain clawing at my throat. There was no point arguing, not when Mark stood behind her in silent agreement. My son, the boy I raised, the man Jake and I sacrificed everything for, watching me like I was the unreasonable one. That night, I returned to the sofa, but it felt smaller, somehow shrinking under the weight of humiliation. Around midnight, Tanya's uncle and cousins came into the living room. This is where we'll crash tonight, one said, tossing a blanket onto the couch. I stared at him. I'm sleeping here, he shrugged. We need the space. Tanya said you could sleep outside since you like fresh air. Fresh air. That was the excuse. I stepped onto the porch without another word. The night was cold, bitter. The wind seeped through the thin blanket Tanya had tossed at me earlier like a scrap of charity. I curled up on the wooden bench, pulling my knees to my chest, trying to keep warm. Every laugh from inside was a reminder of my place, or the place they wanted to push me into. Invisible. Unimportant. Unclaimed. I closed my eyes and whispered Jake's name into the cold night. What do I do? No answer came back. Only the wind. Somewhere deep inside, a quiet truth broke through. This wasn't care. This wasn't family. This wasn't an accident. They were pushing me out, piece by piece. Asterisk. The next morning, I woke with stiff joints and a dull ache pulsing through my spine. The porch boards had left marks on my skin, and the cold had settled deep into my bones. I'd slept outside in my own house. As I stood on, shook off the thin blanket, I heard voices from the kitchen, loud, unfiltered, confident because they didn't think I was around. Or maybe they didn't care. Mark, sign here, Tanya said. What is it? He asked lazily. Just something to streamline things. Mom doesn't need to be burdened with bills. We'll take care of everything. My breath caught. Bills? What bills? I stepped inside quietly. Tanya stiffened but recovered instantly, plastering on a fake smile. Oh mom, you're awake. We're just sorting out some paperwork for the house. Nothing for you to worry about. Nothing for me to worry about. Every time she said that, something terrible followed. She slipped the papers into a folder, pressing it closed with the elegance of someone hiding something dangerous. I made myself a cup of coffee, though my hands shook hard enough to spill some on the counter. Tanya's mother immediately swooped in behind me. Oh dear, be careful. You're making a mess. Really, Tanya? She needs more supervision, like I was a child or a burden. But what stung worst of all was Mark's silence. My own son, he didn't defend me, didn't speak up, didn't even look at me. After breakfast, I slipped into my old study, one of the few rooms Tanya hadn't invaded yet. Or so I thought. The drawers were open. Files were scattered. My folders were moved. My bank statements were not where I left them. My heart raced. With trembling hands, I sifted through the scattered papers until one document made me freeze. A landscaping contract with my signature, except I never signed it. The project wasn't even one I approved. And the payment route, my bank account was changed to a new one. An account I didn't recognize. I swallowed hard. Something cold built in my stomach. This wasn't carelessness. This wasn't disorganization. This was intentional. Meticulous. Strategic. I stepped into the hallway, clutching the forged contract. Mark, I said carefully, did you sign this? Did Tanya? He scratched the back of his neck. Mom, stop overreacting. Tanya is trying to help. You get confused sometimes. Confused. That word. That dagger. I steadied my breath. I'm not confused. This is my house. My finances. My life. Tanya appeared from behind him, arms crossed, smiling like a cat that had swallowed the sun. Oh, Blake, she said softly, dripping false sympathy. You should let the younger generation make things easier. You've done enough. Rest. Stop thinking so hard. That's when I saw it. A slip of paper sticking out of her back pocket. My handwriting. My grocery list from 2 weeks ago. One I kept in my drawer. She had been going through my things long before this invitation. I stepped back, heart pounding. How long have you been planning this? Her smile widened. Planning what? But the mask cracked just slightly. Enough for me to see the truth in her eyes. Weeks. Months. Maybe longer. She wanted control. Not just of the house, but of everything Jake and I built. Later, when everyone was busy taking selfies in the garden, I snuck into the master bedroom, the room that used to be mine and Jake's. The closet door was open. My dresses pushed aside. Tanya's mother's clothes hung in their place. The sight made something inside me crumble. That night, I returned to the porch because the sofa had been taken again. The cold air felt harsher. The stars blurred through my tears. I covered my mouth to muffle the sobs. Jake, what have they done? What have I allowed? But through the despair, a spark of resolve lit inside me. Quiet, but powerful. Because betrayal hurts, cruelty wounds. But being erased, being made invisible, that awakens something fierce. That night, after David stormed out of my house with the threat still hanging in the air, I sat alone in the living room, lights dim, the ticking clock suddenly sounding louder than ever. For the first time in my life, I felt afraid of my own child, not because he could hurt me physically, but because I saw something in his eyes I had never seen before. Greed. Entitlement. And a coldness that didn't come from my upbringing. I kept replaying everything in my mind. Where did I fail him? How did a boy raised with love become a man who looked at his mother like an obstacle? When did money become more important to him than the woman who gave him life? I remembered the nights I stayed awake sewing clothes so he could join school trips. The mornings I walked him to school in the rain. The Christmas when I gave him my wedding ring to pawn because he said he needed to fix his car. I gave. And tonight, he stood in my doorway demanding the house his father and I built together, a house filled with memories he apparently no longer valued. As I sat there, tears finally escaped, not because of the threat, but because I realized I didn't recognize my son anymore. That was the moment I made a silent promise. If he wanted a war, he would get one, but it would be a war he could never win. I wiped my tears, straightened my back, and whispered into the empty room, you will learn, David. You will learn who I am, and for the first time in years, I felt a spark of strength rise inside me, a strength I didn't know I still had. The next morning, I woke up with a heaviness in my chest, but underneath it, something new had settled. Resolve. I made myself a cup of tea, sat at the kitchen table, and stared at the house around me, every corner filled with memories David now felt entitled to. My father built this. He said. Yes. He did. And he built it for his family, not for a son who wanted to push his own mother out. By noon, I had made my decision. I called a locksmith. When the van pulled into the driveway, the locksmith stepped out with his toolbox and a warm smile. Ma'am, what seems to be the issue? I didn't hesitate. Change every lock, I said. All of them. He raised an eyebrow. Lost your keys? I took a slow breath. No, I'm protecting my home. For the next hour, I watched him remove each lock, every click of metal sounding like a door closing on my old life, and another one opening into a future where I finally stood up for myself. When he finished, he handed me 3 new keys. Keep these safe, he said. I held them in my palm, their cool metal pressing into my skin like a reminder. I was no longer the woman who cried while her son threatened her. I was the woman who would fight back. As soon as he left, I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. I looked out the window. David's car. He was back earlier than I expected, angrier than I hoped. He marched toward the front door with the confidence of someone who believed he still owned everything around him. He grabbed the doorknob. Twisted. Clicked. Locked. He tried again. Harder. Confusion crossed his face. Then he pounded on the door. Mom, open this door right now. Another pound. Mom, I know you're in there. I stood inside the hallway, my heart pounding, but my hand did not move toward the door. I whispered to myself, not anymore. David slammed his fist again. Mom, why did you change the locks? I took a deep breath. This was only the beginning. David kept pounding on the door, each hit shaking the frame. For a moment, I feared the neighbors would think something terrible was happening, but then I reminded myself, something terrible was happening. My own son was demanding entry into a house he tried to take from me. Finally, I stepped toward the door, not to open it, but to let him hear my voice through the wood. David, I said calmly, you are not entering this house until we talk like adults. He scoffed loud, sharp, disrespectful. Adults? Mom, stop acting dramatic. This house is mine. Dad intended it for me. You're just delaying the inevitable. His words cut deeper than he knew. That casual cruelty, that certainty that I was just an obstacle in his inheritance. It broke something inside me. I steadied my breathing and answered, your father left this house to me. Not you. And you will not bully me out of my own home. There was a long silence, then he yelled, voice trembling with anger, Mom, you are old. Why do you even need this place? You should be thinking about retirement, not property. Just give me the house and go live in an apartment or something. My heart clenched, not because of the insult but because I realized he had rehearsed this speech, planned it, believed it. He truly thought I was disposable. I didn't raise a son like this, but somewhere along the way, he became a man I didn't recognize. I swallowed hard. David, if this is how you speak to me, then you are not welcome here today. He banged the door again, this time more desperate than angry. Mom, open the door. I need this house. I need IT now. I froze. Need? Why? What was he hiding? No son demands a house with that level of panic unless something darker is happening. That's when it clicked. He didn't just want the house, he was dependent on it for something or someone. I stepped back from the door, my voice steady. Go home, David. We will talk when you calm down. His tone turned cold. I scolded, you'll regret this. Mom? Then the footsteps. Fast, heavy, angry. His car engine roared to life, and he sped off. The house fell silent again. But my mind wasn't silent. Not anymore. What was David hiding? And why was he suddenly desperate enough to threaten his own mother? For the first time, I felt something stronger than fear, curiosity, suspicion, and a fierce determination to uncover the truth. Because if he thought changing the locks was the end, he had no idea what was coming next. The next morning, I woke before the sun. The house was quiet, almost too quiet. No laughter, no footsteps, no teasing voices echoing through the walls. I realized something. David hadn't returned after last night's outburst. I stepped into the kitchen to make tea and found a note on the counter. It wasn't in his handwriting. It wasn't even signed. It read simply, you think you know everything. You don't. My hands trembled. Somewhere deep down, I knew this wasn't just a taunt, it was a warning. I sat down, gripping the edge of the counter. My mind raced, remembering every small detail I had ignored before. The sudden trips David had taken lately, without telling me, the unusual calls late at night that made him defensive whenever I asked, the vague stories about business opportunities he never explained. Something was happening, and it involved my house. I had raised him with love, trust, and patience, and now he was hiding something that threatened everything Jake and I had built. I decided then I could no longer be passive. I opened the drawers in my study, rifled through old files, and found statements I had overlooked. Bank transfers, quick deposits, unfamiliar names, documents that confirmed my suspicion. David had been secretly trying to leverage my estate for some unknown advantage. It wasn't just greed. It was deception, a plan, a careful, long-running plan to take everything I owned. I sat back, letting the reality sink in. Tears didn't come this time, anger did, and with that anger came clarity. I would not allow this betrayal to continue. Not from my son. Not from Tanya. Not from anyone who thought they could take from me what I had earned, what I had nurtured, what I had loved. I called the lawyer Jake had trusted for years. His voice on the other end was calm, steady, and exactly what I needed. Junior, it's me, I said. I need to take action now. He didn't ask questions. He didn't hesitate. He said only, I thought you might call. Let's do it. That afternoon, I reviewed every document, deeds, contracts, accounts, insurance policies. Every single asset would be secured, every loophole closed, every name changed. By the time the sun began to set, I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders. I wasn't just a mother betrayed. I was a woman preparing to reclaim her life. That night, David returned. He stood at the front door, his eyes wide with panic and anger. I know what you did, he shouted. You think you can just lock me out and take everything? I opened the door slowly, looking him in the eye. David, I said quietly, This is not about punishment. This is about respect. And respect is something you lost the moment you tried to erase me from my own home, he faltered, unsure of what to say. For the first time, I saw hesitation in him, and I knew the battle was far from over. But this time, I held all the cards. The next morning, I heard the sound of tires on gravel again. David was back, and this time, he didn't come alone. Tanya was behind him, her expression carefully neutral, hiding the excitement I knew was simmering underneath. He stormed through the front door, fists clenched, voice trembling with fury. Mom, you can't do this. You can't just take everything. I stood my ground, calm but resolute. No, David, you cannot, not now, not ever. You have crossed a line, and I will not let you erase my life. Tanya laughed softly, a sound that cut through the room like a knife. Oh, Blake, she said sweetly, you really think you can stop us? You're old, you're weak. This house, this money, this life, it's ours now. Deal with it. I felt a wave of anger, hotter than I had felt in weeks. This was the same woman who had invited me here with a smile, pretending it was all kindness. The same woman who had orchestrated my humiliation. And now, she dared to lecture me. I took a deep breath and said quietly, firmly, you are both wrong. Everything you think is yours. It is in single quotes legally, morally, or emotionally, I am the owner of this house. I am the owner of my life, and you will respect that, or you will face the consequences. David scoffed. Consequences? What are you talking about? This is my home too. Dad left it for me. Your father left it to me. David, I corrected him, my voice unwavering, and I am in control. Not you, not Tanya, not anyone else. Tanya's smile faltered slightly. I saw the moment she realized. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to cry. I was prepared. You think you can intimidate me? I continued, but the truth is, the only person being intimidated here is you, because you underestimated me. You thought your lies, your schemes, your greed could erase me, but I am still here, and I will fight. David and Tanya froze, for the first time in weeks. The power in the room shifted. It wasn't theirs anymore. Then, I pulled out the folder from the lawyer, the one with all the new documents, the legal changes, the proof that every account, every contract, every property was now firmly under my control. Everything is official, I said, holding it up. From now on, you have no claim to my home, no claim to my money, no claim to my life. If you try to take anything from me, it will be legally and permanently impossible. I watched their faces change, shock, panic, and a flicker of fear. Tanya's lips pressed together, her eyes widening. David's jaw tightened. For the first time, they realized the game was over, and in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Power, control, justice. Tanya's face twisted into something I hadn't seen before. Not anger, not arrogance. Fear. David looked between her and me, confused, overwhelmed, like a child who suddenly realized the world didn't bend to his tantrums. He lunged toward the documents in my hand. Give me that. This is fake. You can't just erase me from everything. I stepped back. Don't touch me, David. He froze. Something in my voice must have reached him, a firmness he wasn't expecting, a mother's voice. But not the mother he was used to. Mom, how could you? He whispered, eyes burning. How could you? I replied, you watched your wife humiliate me. You stood by while I slept outside. You let your in-laws sit in my living room while I shivered on my own porch. You didn't protect me. Not once. He swallowed hard. For a moment, I thought he might say he was sorry. But Tanya stepped in front of him like a shield. David, don't listen to her. She's manipulating you. She wants to control everything. I laughed softly. Control everything? Tanya, you planned to steal my home while calling me mom. You forced your relatives into my rooms. You tried to break me. You failed. Tanya's confidence cracked. Her eyes darted left, right, searching for an exit from a situation she knew she could no longer control. And then I dropped the final truth. By the way, Junior has also filed a preliminary report about the forged landscaping contract. It's being reviewed for potential fraud charges. Tanya went pale. Instantly. Completely. What did you do? She stuttered. I didn't do anything, I replied calmly. You did. David turned sharply toward her. What is she talking about? Tanya stammered. I don't. It wasn't. I stepped closer. Your wife changed signatures. She diverted payments. She pretended to be me on official documents, and she left a digital trail a child could follow. Everything has been submitted. David looked like he'd been punched. Tanya, tell me she's lying. Tanya said nothing. She could in single quotes. Her silence was the final confession. David's chest heaved, anger boiling inside him. Not for me, but at the woman he had defended at my expense. That contract was your idea? He choked. You dragged me into this. Her voice broke. I did it for us. For us, he shouted. You used me. You used my mother. The room exploded. Voices, tears, accusations. Every lie, every manipulation, every scheme unraveling at lightning speed, and I stood there, quiet. Calm. Watching the truth finally detonate the facade they had built. My heart didn't break. It opened. For the first time, I felt free from guilt, from fear, from obligation. Everything I had carried for months was gone. Chapter 10. The final justice. The morning was quiet. To quiet, like the calm before a storm, or in this case, the calm after the storm had already broken. Tanya didn't speak. David didn't move. Even the house seemed to hold its breath, as if it knew the final act was about to unfold. I stepped into the living room, holding my cup of tea, my spine straight, my eyes steady. No tears, no pleading, no fear. Everything is done, I said softly, deliberately, so they could hear every word. The locks are changed. The accounts are secured. The contracts are all legally verified, and the attempted fraud has been reported. Everything you tried to take is no longer yours. Tanya's face twisted in disbelief, anger, and panic. David's chest heaved as he tried to comprehend the reality. The truth had landed like a hammer, hard, unforgiving. You can't. David shouted. You're my mother. You can't do this. Yes, I can, I replied, my voice calm but fierce. I am your mother, David. But I am also a woman who refuses to be humiliated, erased, or used. I have loved you. I have raised you. And now, I protect myself. Tanya lunged forward, her hand outstretched, like she could somehow grab back the life she tried to steal. I didn't flinch. She froze, realizing that her theatrics wouldn't work. Her desperation shone through every line on her face. You were never going to stop me, I said quietly. You only thought you could. But the woman you tried to manipulate is stronger than you imagined. David sank into the sofa, burying his face in his hands. I saw regret. I saw confusion. I even saw the first flicker of understanding that he had sided with someone who had deceived him instead of respecting his own mother. I stepped outside, letting the sun warm my face. The house behind me, once a battlefield, now stood silent and mine. Every room, every corner, every memory reclaimed, not because of violence, not because of anger, but because I refused to allow injustice to win. Later, I called Junior, my trusted lawyer, and smiled softly as he confirmed, all changes are final. Legally, they have no claim. It wasn't revenge. It was justice. It was protection. It was closure. I donated a portion of my wealth to support elderly women who had faced betrayal and manipulation, ensuring that no one else would feel the humiliation I endured. And then I walked through the house, touching the walls, feeling the warmth of my memories, my life, my strength. For the first time in months, I felt peace. David and Tanya, their names would be a shadow in my story, not the center. I had lost nothing that mattered. I had gained everything that truly counted: dignity, freedom, and self-respect. The house was mine again, but more importantly, my life was mine. As the sun set, I smiled. I had chosen myself. I had chosen justice. And in doing so, I had finally found home. Ending Cole in the betrayal had been fierce. The struggle had been long. But in the end, courage, patience, and determination won. I was not just a mother. I was a woman who reclaimed her life, and nothing, not greed, not manipulation, not even family could